stationery, sanitary pens, and everything that could actually encourage a girl to be going to school. That is at CAMFED level. But I also want to commend the government, the innovation that the government is coming up with, deliberately encouraging, schools to do the TVET, they call it tech for schools, and but they use legacy and many other, government schools that are taking that a deliberate effort by the government to make sure that learners are taking textbook subjects, and also the government is actually supporting the issue that I spoke to earlier, is to do with making sure that within the limit resources that the government has. And for those that are not aware, this is the language that is within our policies, within the limit of the resources that are available. And within that limit, the government is trying to make sure that laboratories actually in school. But one of the major challenges also that faced is issue to do with the connectivity to the grid or unavailability of electricity in schools. They're saying, even if a school have been on the laboratory and everything, electricity is a challenge. And there is a great innovation that is coming from the ministry itself and partners, and many partners there that are coming in. There are issues to do with the solarization of school that is actually happening. And I thought the director ICT in here, he will attest to this, that the government is making a deliberate effort to make sure that schools are connected to solar, schools are powered, make sure that they are able then to take STEM subjects and the textbook assignments. So this is the type of innovation that is there, that is being done by various organizations supporting the ministry. We've got actually UNICEF doing this solarization. We've got a World Vision being solarization, and many other players that are coming in to support the ministry and make sure that girls and even the boys take up STEM subjects. But I think the challenge that we have faced in the nation is to then say, when we carry out these innovative ideas, they become an event. They come, and go with whatever minister is there, is coming. I remember the days of oil as the minister of higher education and education. They were deliberate efforts to make sure that they would have STEM subjects. And they were deliberate, they were jingles all over radio, everywhere, and handing the girls out to take up STEM subject. But when he left cabinet, then that was the end of it. And we sort of start over again. That is where we have a challenge there.
Thank you very much. It's of interest that Clem was now talking of Education 5.0, which the Minister of Higher Education is trying to put on the table, looking at innovation, looking at innovation hubs, looking at community engagement as some of the pillars on the Education 5.0. So in our work as education coalitions, it's on the aspect of policy and advocacy. And starting with the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, we really appreciate the milestones that for the first time in history, they now have the business development unit, which will then strengthen how the schools will be able to run their projects in schools. And we have testimonies that we have seen in some of the provinces, to mention National East, whereby we met Form 2s and Form 3s getting into schools, whereby they were sewing face masks. That was around 2020 during COVID. We also have some schools which are running piggery projects. We also have schools such as Chinhoyi High School, which is now Chinhoyi Technical Vocational Training Institution, whereby they are trying to use the dual education system to say, as soon as the child transits from the ordinary level and they exit into the system, the life skill which they are holding on to. As we are moving on to the Ministry of Higher Education, in Zimbabwe, we have two ministries which focus, actually there are three, which focuses on education. The first one is the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. We have the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Innovation, Science and Technology Development. We have the one of the Ministry of Youth, which focuses on the vocational training institutions. So as the National Development Strategy, which is coming to an end, was looking on innovation and leaving no one behind, despite the geographical location. And this has helped to say, with the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, they've been holding what we call career fairs, whereby they were exposing these students in primary school to opportunities on the pathways to take, and this was also guiding them on what they need to do. And as we are looking at the Ministry of Higher Education, they are coming in with different aspects to say let's come up with innovative hub, homegrown solutions to our problems, and also looking at the aspect of customization and putting value to the different ideas. We have the bulk of juice in Zimbabwe coming in as an innovative idea, and also providing different entry and exit points as we are looking at the exit profile of students to say on the heritage-based curriculum. Our vision is at the end, there is need for a student who will be able to fit in the community and will be able to be employed during different aspects and also being an employer. And lastly, as our role as ECOZI is to coordinate different players to ensure that we complement the government efforts. And we do a lot of research. And the recent research that we did was looking at the aspect on how best can we ensure that STEM subjects are being looked at, looking also at the TVET component and women empowerment and gender disparities. So for us, we believe that a dual education system will take us a long way to say the theoretical part which the students are getting, can it also be part of real life and real experience in the community as guided by the blueprints that we look at.
Just add one more thing to say is FAWEZI, since establishment around 1998, our work was focusing on primary and secondary education, where we were supporting girls and boys through different interventions, coaching them, doing science camps with them, just to encourage them to take up STEM. But over the years, we've also learned that we also need to focus on tertiary education. So from 2024 up to 2030, we are also implementing an initiative with support from Mastercard Foundation, where we are providing access to STEM and TVET, working with universities and institutions that provide technical vocational education and training. And our first cohort of learners, we are going to enroll them in 2026. So from now until December, we will flight adverts and take our first cohort of 200 learners, where we will provide comprehensive necessary support. That's the tuition, medical aids, laptops, and everything that they require to access STEM and TVET subjects in technical vocational institutions. So that's one of the initiatives that we have seen. Sometimes we just support until learners reach their advanced level, but we don't then take them up from A level and give them access to enter into universities so that they have dignified work, so that they have opportunities for entrepreneurship or other things. So that's one of the pathways that FAWEZI is using. I also want to talk about community engagement. I think sometimes we focus on working with schools and teachers, but forget that the community is part of the school ecosystem. We want to change attitudes that are in communities. We cannot dismantle stereotypes without getting into communities and engaging communities. So one of the things that we've also been doing is community outreach. When we go into communities, have conversations with parents, with local leaders, with churches, to encourage them to support girls who stand up and say, I want to do biology, I want to do physics, I want to do mathematics. So I also strongly feel that it's important we have components where we engage communities in the dialogues to support children to undertake STEM subjects. Lastly, we've also been working to encourage learners to have critical thinking by coming up with projects. We've done this work across 34 schools in Zimbabwe, where we would ask learners to come up with projects in their schools. And they would design, even primary school learners, you find that primary school learners can actually design a project and solve a problem. By so doing, we found that it's an innovation that helps them with critical thinking. So that's one of the innovations that also strongly link to the heritage-based curriculum that was being talked about in the afternoon, and we also advocate for that kind of work where children do hands-on work to do projects.
There are a lot of innovations that they have shared, and I could tell that a lot is happening, and we have people coming from 3 different organizations, just 3. What more is happening to those one part of the money? I'm sure there are a lot of innovations that we're also going to hear from you, as you also give your feedback, but maybe the new person is then, are we getting what we want? Are we getting the results that we want? We are doing a lot of work to support young women, young men, girls in primary and secondary education to check up STEM, but are we getting there? So maybe as a follow-up question, as you are speaking, panelists, to touch on issues of skills, but I would want to hear more if there's anything left in terms of, after we provide all these innovations, what skills do young women and men need to acquire through STEM and TVET education to remain relevant in the rapidly changing job markets? And how can we ensure that they receive the training and the support required? So how do we take them a step further? What skills do they need so that we get to where we want to go?
Start, and I'll just speak to 3 things. First, digital literacy. I think in the afternoon we saw a number of presentations around digital literacy. I think that's one thing that is critical. Secondly, continuous pursuit for knowledge, new trends, new developments that are happening. I think we need to encourage young people to continuously seek knowledge. What new trends are coming up? What innovations are coming up? Lastly, building networks and shared learning. I think even as adults in this room, there's been a lot of shared learning in the afternoon. What more if we encourage learners from one particular school or from one university to network with the next university? I think that would really help them in terms of skills that they would require to pursue their same subjects into the future.
But thank you for the moderator. You ended the question by saying, if the job market, that is where I have a problem with our innovation. All our innovation, everything is just focusing on what will happen when I get into the job market. You produce a student, then says after finishing, after finishing university, someone is moving around with CV. STEM supported, no innovation, nothing has been done. Just looking for a job market that say, hey, someone employ me. And that is the challenge of our education system across board in Africa. We produce people who want to work for others. I was in a master's class, and we were sharing, the MBA students, and I was asking them, how many of you MBA students? There were 15 of them. How many of you have got businesses? None. So whose business do you want to manage? That is the great challenge that I have. People always want to work for someone. People always want to produce CVs. Bob retail, I mean, this and this. What I want is to see, what I envisage to see, are people who come up with innovation that solve the problem that we are facing as Africa. And that is key for me. That is key for me. I always ask you, produce engineers. A lot of them, civil engineers. But when I get into our work, they create anything with the terms of things, and they wonder what type of a civil engineer I will produce. We are producing these scientists, lots of them, but we're challenging. And challenge that means, this scientist and nothing's happening, no innovation. So critical for me. I want to see that innovation. I want to see children who invent things. And once they invent things, we support. That is the challenge. That is the challenge. I think the director would attend that last year in the ZX, we saw, quite a lot of young learners, were very innovative, creating, working robots and this and this and this. But did we then support them director to be where they should be? That is a great challenge. So what I want to see is innovation that then solve the challenge that we face every day. We are producing so many people in the STEM subjects, but we've got challenges of literacy. No one is ever thought that, one day the curriculum might not be able to support us, but we're producing electricity each year, isn't it? But no one has come up with the innovation. They say, okay, hydro is giving us challenges. What do we do to solve this problem? That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Because education can only be education if it is solving the problem that we are facing as a people, solving the problem that we are facing as a nation.
This is so much interesting because I was looking at a future where there is integration of STEM, TVET, so that it saves the challenges in the community. Whereby these projects that we see the young people doing as they are doing the school projects, becoming a reality to address the real challenges at community level. We appreciate the heritage-based curriculum on what is happening. I remember when EduTech gave their presentation in that, they showed us a small solar, having some solar being done, but has that idea taken up so that it serves its purpose in the community to address the challenge of power? Secondly, I would want to see a future whereby we have strengthened industrial partnerships that provide authentic and experienced learning to say there's hands-on during the training of these processes. When we identify the talent, let's nurture it until we get to realize the result. Lastly, I would like to see a situation whereby we have interdisciplinary curriculum, appreciating what I'm good at as a student. How do you nurture me rather than operating as science? We're talking about electricians, we're talking about scientists in terms of using AI, but it's time that we say, let's marry these together rather than operating as silos for the best interest of solving the challenges.
She's saying this, that she's spoken about all the silos, and probably I want to take time to talk about it. That is our greatest challenge. We operate in silos. This innovation becomes a FAWEZI innovation, we run it as FAWEZI. This one becomes a CAMFED innovation, we run it as CAMFED. This one becomes an ECOZI. We are not collaborating. We are not collaborating. And also our ministry, there is really need for coordination between the three ministries that is spoken about that provide us with education. Because it starts from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. You cannot then start talking of STEM when we are at university or we're at doctorate. It starts from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary. So there should be coordination between these things, so that this STEM something start from the beginning, from the foundation. If it goes up, then the other ministry take it. So if we then say the Ministry of Tertiary Education now promotes STEM and the Ministry of Primary is not producing them, no way. There is need for that collaborative and coordinated efforts to make sure that our efforts are one. I'm happy that our curriculums are starting with the heritage-based curriculum. Heritage 5.0. I hope that starting with the heritage brings the coordination that way.
Thank you. This has been a mouthful. What I captured from this is we need innovation to solve our challenges, but we also need to stop working in silos. I'm not going to say much. We promise to keep it light on this side and heavier on your side.
So I'm just going to ask my final question, which has been partly touched on, but in case there's something else that you want to get, to want to understand, how can stakeholders, including government, industry, and civil society, collaborate to support STEM and TVET programs that empower young people and drive economic? How best can we do that? If there is anything else as a round of
Thank you very much. I think the replication of best practices, as Clemens already said, there are quite a number of best practices, innovations that have shown that they work in terms of promoting STEM education. Let's replicate those beyond the single school, beyond the province, beyond the institution. So the replication of best practices, I think, is one thing that we can also advocate for as civil society working with our government. Linking schools with institutions that can help learners to see the practical side of STEM. It will be good for learners to have trips, excursions, visits to institutions where they can see STEM in practice. It will be good for learners to do a one-day mentorship visit to STEM lady's office, for example, and see what does she do when she gets into the office from morning to end of day. So the linking of schools to practical experiences for learning STEM. What we can also do as stakeholders is to help learners in subject selection. I think this has come up from January in many platforms where learners need support in terms of subject selection if they are going to do well in terms of STEM.
I would say, since you're so much interested in policies and appreciating the frameworks that are in Zimbabwe, it would be good for us to have a clear roadmap of what we'll be looking for, starting from today going forward in civil society, working with the government. We need to come up with a clear framework, short-term framework, whereby we are seeing what's the status, what the gains are already there, what the models that we need to upscale. The monitoring framework will then help us to come up with a clear roadmap. We also need to have an appreciation of the strength of the facilitators, their exposure. If there is need for capacity development for the facilitators, something that we need to put on our roadmap. Then after 5 years, as we are going to be reflecting on our national development strategy, have we managed to establish centers of excellence whereby we continuously go and learn to say this has worked, this is what we're going to do and revamp for the future generation.
So I think, what is also critical is to learn from each other as Africa. We need exchange visits to go and learn what is happening in Nigeria, what is happening in Rwanda, or what is happening in Mozambique, what is happening in South Africa. How are they doing it? And where are they getting the resources? It's critical to learn from each other and sharing these innovative ideas. I think for me, once we do that, we'll get them.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not going to say anything about this last round. Maybe we can start from there. But I would like to thank our panelists for the discussion, for their contributions to the discussion. And now I'm turning to you and saying it's your time to shine. It's your time to say something. But we need to thank our panelists. So I'm going to copy from Doctor in the afternoon, the way we were clapping. Could we clap for them? We're rolling. How are we doing it? Roll it, roll it. If I'm trying to learn, roll faster. Now let's roll the Zimbabwe way. Roll faster. Jam it together. And then agenda. You tell me how I did later on, but I tried. Thank you. So I would like to invite reactions. to the audience here physically and also those who are online. I'm saying reactions because it's open for everything. A person, a contribution, a petition, complaints. It's okay. So this is the first hand that I saw.
Thank you so much for the powerful presentation. I've got so many questions for you. I don't know whether you're going to allow me, or I'll ask one at a time, then I give others a chance.
Okay, I'll allow you to when you start for the first round.
Okay. The first one is, what are you doing in terms of equipping teachers to different methodologies so that their teaching could be exciting? If you go to our classes, you check that more emphasis is given to the art subjects. Why? It is because when teachers are teaching art subjects, commercials, they are dramatizing, they are singing, dancing, like what they've said, they are taking students out of the class, they are doing all sorts of things. But if you go to the science lab, the teachers will be just putting on that white dashboard, but the methodologies are just more. So what are you doing in terms of working with teachers so that they can improve their teaching methodologies, number one? Also, what you have selling them about these important, whereby if we have these seminars, we can say that in Iran, we've got a representative, in Blawan, a representative, like what SIMTA does, like also our organization for East teachers, we have representatives in all the provinces. We have such people. If you have such people, you can as well even buy a phone for them or something else so that they can as well put more energy in their classes or in their province or in their districts. In this STEM program, it can touch so many areas in the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question, Doc. So, because we are moving with the gender mantra, I'll take a female hand and on this table. So we'll take 3 from the physical, and then I'll check for another 3 on our online. We take the rest the first round, and then we'll take more.
So, thank you for starting off with that question, because listening to you, I realized that the key people when it comes to education, the teacher in the classroom, was out of the discussion. And I realized that the more they are left behind, they will continue to produce their old stuff. But if the teachers are carried along, that is when the development we are looking for, the transformation we are looking for, can materialize. So this morning, for instance, I'm at the registration table, and we have leaders coming in, and you go to somewhere and you can even just scan the menu and then you have access to information. And it was a challenge for most people. So if we are emphasizing STEM education, but the people to carry out the policies that we'll come up with are not being carried along to realize the transformation that we are looking for, then there is a gap. So in our policies, as he said, we should consider the teacher in the classroom, making them abreast of advancement in technology. the levels, the various levels of advancement. And then another thing also is, I like the fact that primary school students have started making projects, taking up projects, and it's so exciting. But we can guide them right from the start. It's not just doing a project or taking up a project. Is this a project that is really solving a problem in society? Because we are looking at translating educational advancement into continental development. You can only develop your continent when there is an essence for whatever you are doing. So for instance, a child is challenged
to look around your community. Okay, you don't have water in this community. What can you do to solve this problem? So now the child is taking up a project, but this project is solving a problem in the society, as little as they are. And believe you me, you really need the government to come and develop that water for you. A child is able to do this, then you have the support here, this support there, the project is materialized. So we start from the entire process of design thinking with a child, and believe you me, we are going to see the Africa we are all looking out for. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going from the physical. We are going to the James.
Thank you very much for the very lively presentation. I've got quite a number of questions, but I'll just ask one, which I want an honest response from the panelists, and it has to do with how you can quantify your assistance for our pupils in terms of access to STEM and to TVET, taking into account that we have at least almost 5 million pupils in the country. As development partners, what impact have you had? Well, what's the percentage vis-a-vis the number of our pupils? How many dues do you have because of your work with the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education? Thank you.
When someone says they want an honest answer, you are in trouble. So he said he wants an honest answer. Okay, so for our audience online, is there anyone with a question or a contribution? If so, please unmute and contribute. Okay, going once, twice. All right, so we are going to, where's the head? All right, so we can take those three. I'm sure they will manage. Is it a lot or? All right, so we are taking this one and then we answer, then we go to that table.
Africa Education Summit. I was so tired. If I STEM girl, you say it very, I don't know this here. Teaching from Professor Funo, say we have to produce a product that is also a product that is able to have a living after leaving school or after leaving society. Someone who was supposed to employ other people so that they can get a living. But I've heard from FAWEZI, she said she's going to a lot of 200 girls. I'm quite happy with that because we are trying to improve the life of the girl child. But I was having that request to say, I hope we are going to visit deep down the road areas where we have those girl child who want to be involved into organizations that are in a position to assist them to do those subjects. And so, Third Africa Education Summit, I think we are supposed to look at how can African countries come together, put the resources together, to assist this girl child who wants to get into STEM subjects, like the way how we have our satellite. And the same way, I think as African countries,
let's put our resources together, and then we share, we collaborate on ideas of how to improve the life of a young child. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we are going to pause here and get responses for the questions. Most of them were general questions to all the panelists. Maybe a brief recap. The first question was on equipping teachers with technology methodologies, how we are involving teachers and equipping them, which is also related to the one that says, do you have seminars with teachers? How are you working with teachers to make sure that they catch up? Also, again, the third one is almost related. It's about teachers' involvement again, and looking at the challenges in STEM, looking at the transformation that is happening. Are our teachers being left behind? Are you moving with them? Then there was a reaction again on the issue of primary children coming up with projects that are solving problems in their communities, the issues of design thinking. Then there was a contribution on how can you quantify the assistance that you have done as development partners. And then the other one was, are we producing a wholesome product? And also there is a specific one mainly for FAWEZI in terms of the targets of the learners that you are going to be assisting to access tertiary education. And then how can African countries get together to solve the African problems that we have? So I'm going to open it up to the panelists to respond to a question of your choice.
Thank you very much. I think the number of questions also shows that say something. Okay, so I'll pick a few and hopefully I'll try to respond. I want to start off by responding to you. What you said is exactly what you are doing. Learners are coming up with projects that respond to the environment. So I'll not add anything. They've come up with projects around solarization. Zimbabwe's challenges in terms of electricity, and learners have come up with projects in that regard. So that's exactly what they are doing. In terms of quantifying our assistance, I want to start off by saying, Director Ndoro, that our role as CSOs is to support the government of Zimbabwe. No single CSO can reach all schools, all provinces in Zimbabwe. And I would be wrong if I say we can reach every school in Zimbabwe. But our role is just to provide support where we can to the government of Zimbabwe. We have our success stories. We've produced doctors, we produce engineers, we have a database of learners that have gone through our support who are now in the society. We even go to schools to do mentorship. So we have learners who have gone through our interventions. We have now come up to form, for FAWEZI, we have an alumni network of those learners. I'm sure Director is hearing my response was exactly to him. Then in terms of the students that we are going to enroll, for 2026 is 200 and the next year is 200 as we move on. So we are going to enroll 80% girls and then 20% boys. And out of those, 5 to 15% are children, are learners with disabilities. And we have a very specific, what can I say, criteria. In one instance, I was asked what do you mean by marginalization, to reach out to marginalized communities. So we've entered into partnerships with polytechnics, with Amyepi Polytechnic, here we've entered into partnerships with agricultural institutions, selected universities, and we have a specific criteria to reach out to the most marginalized girl, boy, and child with disability to be part of this program. My last response will be around capacity development, and hopefully the ministry will also come in to respond on that. One of the interventions that I keep speaking to is we've developed a manual that is available even for sharing, the gender responsive pedagogy manual, very comprehensive, which we use to train teachers, education managers around all this that we're talking about. So we have the GRP for early childhood development, GRP for TVET, which we also use to train teachers. And we've reached out to quite a number, but because of resources, we cannot reach out to all teachers. Then equipping teachers to use different methodologies Yes, in that manual, there is also sections that speak to learner-centered pedagogies. Learning STEM can be quite exciting. And there are those methods in the books that can be used other than just delivering the lecture methods and things like that. I think that's what I can say for now, and I'll allow my colleagues to also come.
So the director wanted an honest answer. So we've been giving an honest assessment, give an honest answer. Yeah, we know at CAMFED we support teachers, support STEM teachers and STEM teachers and guiding country teachers with cell phones. But I don't think that is the support that's really talking about. I think honestly, we are leaving behind teachers. Honestly, I think our interventions are actually not leaving behind the teacher who should be facilitated. And I think this is not only reflecting on the partners, it is also reflecting on the ministry itself. So that's why we often forget about the facility. We look at the girls, interventions, bring back the girl, all the president, everything, but the teacher was going to take care of that. Most of this not. That is an honest answer, and you will never get an honest answer. That is more than that. In terms of quantification, like she said, we cannot cover all. But for us, we've got a product there, and I think we've got so many products. We are supporting over 10,000 girls in 42 districts in secondary education. We are supporting them with their, we call it a basic support, so complete package, uniform, stationery, school fees, and that. But CAMFED is been focusing more on secondary education. But the coming in of us being a grand agent for the Global Partnership for Education, we also have to look at primary. And I think in the last year, we supported over 30,000 learners. Additional things, books, pens, this spoke about the problem solving innovation. And she spoke about the school best project. Even the color before. That was the aim in terms of policy to make sure that learners actually come up with projects that solve challenges that are within the community. But let me be honest again, director. If one is honest answer, yes, we've been very good in Zimbabwe, coming with a good blueprint, very good policy, but not challenge. Poor implementation of policy. The policy is clear, the curriculum is clear. We need this school-based project is clear, but when it comes to implementation,
Thank you very much. I just wanted to respond to the questions of how we are working with the civil society organizations. When we are looking at the engagement of the teachers as a ECOZI, we have teacher unions that are affiliated to the person, and we operate in all the 10 provinces. So in terms of information dissemination, if we have a national dialogue, it's then cascaded to a district, the province, using the training of trainers models, and also using what's happening. For example, I would also mention highlighting CINTA, it's a member of ECOZI. With PTUZ, it's a member of ECOZI, Teacher Union of Zimbabwe, Educators Union of Zimbabwe. So that all the information that will be available, shared by the members of the coalition, and we strengthen and we also highlight the gaps that they were pointing out to. Then secondly, in terms of capacity building teachers, we had a project which was being implemented, piloted in 4 districts in Zimbabwe, which is Umfuza, Tai, Shiba, and Mondoro. The whole idea was to have an appreciation in terms of the capacity of the facilitator in engaging ICT in their day-to-day running. And the piloting of the project has yielded a number of results, and we've seen discussions coming in to see all the importance of developing our own ICT strategy as a Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Because we did a baseline, which then informed the need for that capacity building, which is being done in different aspects. And in terms of quantifying the assistance, I think it's a task that we really need to work with the ministry in terms of collaborating and coordinating all these efforts. Because a lot is being done by our partners, and we highlighted the issue of solo doing things our way and duplication of effort. So if we come up with a strong monitoring framework to say, okay, ECOZI, yeah, having this digitalization project, training the school development committees, training the school management, after you, who then came on the roadmap, what kind of material have they been using? So how many people have been trained? And in terms of the support from civil society, some are supporting at grassroots level, some are supporting at what level, looking at the different aspects, but there's no database to capture at the end of the year what has been done by civil society to complement the government.
Thank you. I think they've done justice to the actions. And as I said earlier, want to keep it short. I am going to take contributions from that table. All right, okay, I'll take these two and then we decide.
Good evening. Subabato from the Kingdom. Thank you very much for your presentations. I have one question. First question is, I want to understand the policy space here in Zimbabwe, looking at ICT, TVET, and gender, because in your presentation, there's a lot that is being done, but I'm not hearing what is the policy space and how open is it, especially that we're civil society. I am coming from the civil society stance, coming from the Social Council of NGOs. So as we speak on Monday, as the Social Council of NGOs, we're looking at the gap, or actually the state of TVET in Lesotho. So this was kind of an interest to me. And we found that the reason why this TVET or STEM is not forming as it should, regardless of gender. Because in Lesotho, there's always, it's a mismatch when it comes to gender. The boy child is the most disadvantaged, unlike most of the countries. So that's why I was saying regardless of gender, but we found out that our main issue is the financing of STEM and TVET. It's having subjects that are up to date or within the 21st century, and having infrastructure that is actually of ease for learners. So I want to know here in Zimbabwe, what is the space and what are the challenges, what are the gaps, so that we can learn and see, because that's what we found out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I feel more confident when I said, yeah, I'm praised with Masunta. Say what, and I think I'm representing the young that I represented in space. So I'm speaking as a young person. So mine are not questions, but more comments. Yeah, not young at heart. So mine are more of comments rather than questions. So the moment we have a mismatch between training as well as the industry needs, then we are in serious trouble. We really need to rethink that. So you know that the moment that we have teachers that have more of theoretical experience rather than practical experience, you have a teacher that goes through their undergraduate degree and then they go to their masters and then they don't go to the industry. And then straight from masters, you go on to your PhD and then you go on to teaching or to lecturing. and then you want to lecture someone technical skills, then we are in trouble, right? Then also you note that Clemens, you were talking about someone graduating and then you then go and search for a job, but you're not creating the employment, right? I studied for 4 to 5 years, right? And then maybe I have a vision or a dream to design a bed that prepares itself or that covers me when I go to school. But mind you, I also have expectations, financial expectations, and mind you also there's limited capital for innovations. We do have the innovation hubs, we do have a lot of systems that have been set up, but do we really have financing that is set up, that is on the ground, that they can finance all the concepts that have been designed, by young people or by learners in our society. And as young people also want to survive. So that's why at the end of the day, we then end up going on to search for employment rather than establishing or creating our own innovations. And you know what? If you are then lucky, you then have someone going overseas. So you know that most of the innovations that are there, maybe that are in Europe or that are in the States, if you agree with me, most of them come from Africans. What we then do as Africans is we're now buying final products, the end products, but most of the innovations are done by Africans in other regions or in other countries. And then lastly, when it comes to TVET, you will note that TVET is mostly considered to be a second-class education, form of education, where you know that if you are to go to Kabubi, you are to go maybe to whatever center that you are going, in the society, you are considered to be maybe someone who is maybe less privileged, or you're going there because you run out of options, or maybe you should have the required qualifications, or maybe the required number of subjects for you to go through to maybe a university or a flash degree. So at the end of the day, someone then ends up going to a technical college, and if you go there, then there's less, there's a low investment, there's also less recognition of TVET, and at the end of the day, we have low enrollments, and then we also have a few technical people and submit.
Thank you. So please help me manage our time. Then we come to honorable. I'll be requesting one person each, and then we will try to round up. We can keep our conversation going on our other platforms.
Thank you so much. Ask us to shine, about to shine your close. Anyway, thank you so much for the discussions. I think you can hopefully see that balance. But just to agree with the gentleman, say that good discussions, but implementation, I think, is a problem. Need to agree on certain things and also disagree on certain things. I think when you look at the conference, for instance, people are talking about how we moved from the colonial education system to recalibrating. We're now talking about heritage, but we also need to, from where I'm standing, to move from speech and the policy ticking boxes postures. We are just interested in that this is a good policy, this is what, this is a no. But to what extent the two organizations, I know FAWE, I know their programs, and the two organizations that come from tertiary education system and education system, and I don't know any of their program. I heard that they are working with tertiary education institutions. I'll be interested in knowing. One. Number two, I think at tertiary education institutions, if interventions do not come at research level and you still focus on students, I think you are not going to have any impact. I think it's similar to what my sister was saying, that the interventions are pro-students and they're not pro-teachers. At tertiary institutions, if they are not pro-research, what percentage of your programs contribute towards research funding in Zimbabwe? said that there are many provisions, but there is no funding. And just to say that it's not that we don't have engineers. Education system today, it's the old education system. So there's also political will, there's also will from industrialists, and how many of us are supporting supporting STEM education apart from civil society? You actually see that a majority of us are actually using their money in other quarters, and not in research or in,
Thank you. Thank you so much. You play a vital role as you complement CAMFED. And we have raised quite a number of assistance that we give schools. But then, what are monitoring methods that you employ to ensure accountability and transparency as we try to make sure that the assistance that you give reach the intended beneficiaries? The second issue that I have here concerns teachers. Yes, some of my colleagues here have talked about the empowerment which is given to the teachers. But now, it appears as if your major focus is CSOs is on children. But there is somebody who is the facilitator there. The facilitator is the teacher who makes it happen. What do you think of those, of that group in terms of incentives to make sure that the teacher is happy? Teacher is not happy. Very little is going to be achieved in this class. Let me end here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, our panelists. This has been really an eye-opener in terms of the work of FAWEZI in Zimbabwe. I want to congratulate you for the great work that you continue to pursue, especially looking at the aspect of STEM. Because if we look at our universities right now as we speak, less than 25% of our students actually enroll in STEM subjects. We've got majority in the social science and humanities, and a very little percentage in terms of those that are joining STEM. And I really appreciate, some of the solutions that you have actually shared to say, if we look at what we currently have in terms of the challenges for enrolling the STEM students, one of them is to do with the lack of role models. I think that's a very important aspect that we also need to consider, in the sense that you need to have role models going around the country, going around our countries in order to, sort of allow the girls to understand that STEM is also very critical, also enjoying, the subjects actually at university level, as well as, of course, the issue to do with, information sharing that you've actually indicated to say it's actually, an issue that, those that are
way of beyond. They don't even know how important the STEM subjects that we're talking about are. And of course, the TVET that you also made reference. And I think it's really important that you have to hear and really support those that are in the marginalized areas because they lack the information. And the moment you create more of these role models, then automatically we see some of these coming on board simply because we have got a very less percentage of those students joining the STEM subjects in different institutions. I like the criteria that you have used in terms of the selection process that you're talking about 200, taken on board to join the STEM, learning. I think it's really important that as we do that, also think about, selecting the best. I think the honorable was here indicated that how do you then account to say this is actually, the deserving students. I think that aspect needs to come out very clearly because we need to have a selection criteria that speaks really to the disadvantaged, students that we have in the marginalized area joining STEM subjects. So I just want to say thank you so much. This is really important, but we need to just gear up, of course, use some of the issues that we have in terms of the selection process. Because definitely you are right, that less than 25% join STEM subjects. Thank you.
Thank you for the contributions. We keep them coming as we round up. Our light server is vetted, so I'm going to manage our remaining collection of food. So I'm going to start by the sister from Lesotho. Please start then when they are baby, just manage how you don't go. Okay. There was a hit.
Thank you very much.
Malemba vineta onga maesi.
Whenever you have the policy, when you have the recommendations, but you don't have implementation strategy, that's the only way you can achieve such results. For example, yes, all recommended that borrower will go to the building on time by 8 a.m. You just kept quiet. Out putting strategies, how to get there. That yes, so person can come and do so things at a particular time. And even if in terms of government, to implement such thing needs policy or need a law. So you have to put in a strategy how such a law can be enacted. And act, need to be empowered. So I would like to advise that whenever you have such kind of things, so please put in place implementation strategies. And by doing that, I'm sure you get implementation done very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was advice.
Yes,
please.
Yeah, mine there's a comment on maybe rather recommendation. Because if we look at innovation, through innovation, your effective STEM has to be inclusive. Otherwise, we might be perpetuating inequalities. And I'm happy to appreciate the work that we are doing on the Tertiary to person with disabilities. What is it that we are doing are we having strategies that are boosting the confidence of our learners with disabilities to be engaging into these STEM initiatives? Many times we find out that these learners with disabilities, they are, but that's where their confidence is. When it comes to STEM subjects, they need a lot of confidence building. What initiatives should we put in place to boost the confidence? Then also on the same note of confidence, our educators also confident to be empowering learners with disabilities? Because some of them can be shunning away people with disabilities because they do lack the confidence. They don't know how they should be handling, for a lack of a better word, or maybe empowering the learners with disabilities. So there is really a need to build the confidence of the learners themselves, of the educators themselves. What programs are we doing? Are we doing programs aimed at boosting those confidence? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other hand so that we give it to our panelists and then we will.
Okay, thank you. Mine is a contribution on what is taking place in our schools. We have got debate competitions taking place, public speaking are taking place. The topics that are done on those debates, public speaking, they are topics for humanities, not science. What have you done? What are you doing to address that? Then you talked about you are buying students in terms of stationery, a buying of books, but what our students what are you doing making sure that schools that were testimonies can work in the end with book publishers? They can write testimonies. When publishers, those who publish testimonies and make the books accessible to all our students around the country. Then the last one that I want to talk about parents. You talk about teachers playing in part. What about parents also? When they are bringing their children for one, when they do in our meetings, when the child is going for home play, I also inducted the parents about the importance of STEM. I think that is also very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other hand? All right, this is the last one, and then we respond.
It's not a question, but I'm one of the debate coaches in Zimbabwe, and our topics in the STEM experience of primary schools, but from our end, I think the group of those topics from humanity, science, AI, everything. So I think it differs from one point to the other, but I think it's good that there's any of that can come that I'm seeing.
Thank you very much for that one. Oh, last one.
A short one. That's the person we want. I just want if the panelists can give us their as to what extent it's making this screen for what the advancement of STEM, particularly
Thank you very much. So we are going to open it up for our panelists to respond. There are quite a number of questions. So maybe to manage them, if it has been answered, maybe the next panelist can also focus on the other question. So would you like a recap? Oh, you are okay? All right, please go ahead.
I feel this look. Yeah, so my sister there, I spoke about the police, the framework for the state, we have the list of the required policy, and my answer is yes. In terms of the policy framework, everything I think is quite in order. We have got the head best curriculum. You asked me whether it's relevant, it's relevant, but I don't think I would give a good assessment whether I was part of the scheme that was also responsible for that. But we have got the heritage based curriculum. We have the education 5.0 that is spoken out. These are also and in terms of TVET, just the next week, our Minister of Youth will be doing a strategy for. So in terms of policy framework, we are good. The guy from Nigeria spoke about coming up with the implementation strategy. I tell you, my brother, when we do our policy, one of the things for it to pass through cabinet is for it to have an implementation strategy. So we have for each policy we have implementation strategy that are in place, but the issue comes when comes to this fight that particular strategy. But in terms of policy and coming of the policy, we are good there. I wanted to throw back with my brother. I wanted to throw the question back to him because I don't think it's a question that can be asked. CSOs will say what budget when it says when it comes to research. I think this is the budget that we need to see actually basically as we're coming up with this budget research. And basically coming up with budget for research. But unfortunately, I think in our Ministry of Education, I think it contains that yes, of course, our department is responsible for research and the budget, but it's the least budget that is there. We don't see the importance of research. I think we actually need to do advocacy there. That's a our ministry but to do research. When the budgets are coming to Parliament, please. Because when it comes to research to make sure that we invest more in research. And primary, secondary, higher tertiary, and investment. You want to tell me more? So someone spoke about we spoke about most of the innovation they go out there. What those companies did? They have put deliberate financing when it comes to innovation. And I think there's no harm in just stopping that. Let's say we have to always finance innovation. And there is always an argument that African government doesn't have the money to do that. I argue aloud for the money to do that. But probably we don't know how to unlock financing. And I bring it back to Parliament. Let's say Parliament. We have so many resources in terms of natural resources, mineral, that we have companies that come in mind. A certain percentage of the revenue channel towards innovation. That way we get it right. That way we get it right. Ask about the monitoring method of virtual accountability in terms of our intervention. So what happens in every intervention that we do in schools, we are guided by the responsibilities. And it is the responsibilities that actually help us in actually selecting the beneficiaries. And we are told that these are the beneficiaries. We've got a committee that are at school level that they do the selection, and we are given names that say these are the vulnerable, young ladies that we support, and we support based on the committees that are formed at school level and actually, supervised by government, and in this case, by the GSI. Let me leave.
I think this answered most of our questions. Just to add, on policy framework, our national development strategy one, also is something on STEM. Then it's really plan the national priority, also is speaks to STEM. Then the conflict education strategy, 4, 6, and 8 speaks of STEM, gender equality, and impact of development. So the policy framework is fine. Then some of the questions raised, we take them in these areas of planning, the focus on research. I think those are areas that we can take those areas that we need to improve on. Then in terms of monitoring accountability and reaching beneficiaries as to sustainable, just to add from what Clement said, we have local structures that we also use. So there are different communities, structure set up. We actually do home offices, check if this child is really wrong. So there is a lot of effort in them coming up saying this one is the discerning child because of the home certificate. Then in terms of disabilities, Peter, one of the things that we did with was assessment of polytechnics and other institutions in terms of their capacity to also take on board learners or students with disabilities. One thing that I learned from that assessment was from a certain institution, we were told that there are certain courses they will not take learners with a certain state of a disability because they will not manage to do the courses. So we learned that when we did assessments. So there is need for holistic interventions when we talk about assisting learners with disabilities. It's not only about sticking boxes to say there's a ramp, there's a rail, but is the polytechnic, is the university able to provide a kind of learning that the student requires? Was it?
Okay, most of the person has been responded, but we have to say, in Zimbabwe, we have policy spaces where we share our information. When we're working with the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, we also participate in the grade center meeting. And the panelists here, they are also part of the education coordinating group. We also call for meetings to share the findings of the research work that we have done. And we have the beneficiaries coming up to say, yes, we are validating this research. This is what has happened within our schools and our recommendation. And for higher and tertiary, I think there is high staff turnover because as we are doing our advocacy, it goes to policy change. And currently we are celebrating the anti-sexual harassment policy for the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary. So I think we need to improve in terms of information dissemination on what has happened in the previous years. And lastly, I would like to say, I really in the work that is being done by the faculty in terms of boosting the confidence of learners with disability, we have done a research, and we are happy to say the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary for the first 10 years to 2024, that's when they got their first allocation for disability inclusion, and they to buy some learning assistive devices for the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary on selected institutions. So we're saying through advocacy, there's a lot of work to speak that.
Okay, thank you very much for the responses. Now that you are eating, I can't ask you to roll, but I'll ask you to keep on chewing and listening. I think they've done justice to the questions raised. They've also acknowledged the guidance, the comments, and areas of learning. So I'd like to wrap up this session and maybe ask from our panelists any parting words in less than a minute each.
But before we conclude, I just wanted to comment on role model. We spoke about role model. She was asking me to then say, I've been trying to get in touch with you because I want to work with you. Work is now there. You are our role model. Someone spoke about textbook. Let's comment the ministry. What is doing? The ministry last week Friday launched an e-library. I think that's where this is where we should be going. We talk about technology support. We have to commend the Ministry of Finance for that. And we hope, we spread this e-library to these people. My parting shot to the government, I would want to say, show me your budget. And I tell you what your priorities are. Show me your budget. I'll tell you your priority. But prioritize them, prioritize even. Thank you.
Everyone acts a role to play, ensure that even anything about to see the future that we want towards a world of STEM and TVET, empowering the future of Zimbabwe, which are the young women and men for socio-economic growth, the dynamics which are happening. So we need to take up on what we're doing for the best interest of the future.
Say, let's continue to work to create environments that are favorable for the teaching and learning of STEM subjects. Let's provide adequate resources for every level for learners and students in tertiary institutions to take up STEM.
Thank you for the parting words, and I'm happy you can clap. Okay, so I think we were limited by time, but we can keep our conversations going. So we would like to say, please continue to follow the organizations of these three panelists, FAWEZI, CAMFED, ECOZI. They are on all social media platforms, Facebook, your WhatsApp, your Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we can keep up this conversation. Let's keep it going. Tomorrow during the break time, during tea time, we can also pick it up and let us keep our conversations going. But I think we are happy about the discussions that we've had. And I would like to thank you all for being active participants. We didn't do justice to this chat. I just want to read one message that came through our inbox. Minna, please help me. So this one is coming from Privileged Talker. She had said, truly speaking, there is too much pressure on the learner and teacher as far as the heritage-based projects are concerned, especially for the candidates who are writing this year. The issue of time should be considered. So I've just picked one to also give you an insight on the issue of the curriculum that we've been discussing. It's a conversation that we'll continue to have. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this discussion. Thank you for staying through. And I hope you are going to rest and read early again enough for tomorrow. This is the end of our discussion. I would like to release our panelists so that they can eat. They see they are getting angry and angry and angry. Can you also eat? But like to request for one more last claim for our panelists. Thank you very much. You're free to eat and you can claim for me tomorrow. Please have a good night.
Thank you.
The more you stress before you allow loss. But now when you explain your because this something that